So let's talk about something weird. Today, we're going to be talking about how your brain forms opinions. You ever notice that sometimes you don't really feel strongly about something until you see a flood of comments telling you that you should feel strongly? It's like your independent thought just vanishes, replaced by whatever's loudest in the room. And with the sGotLatent controversy, the whole thing unfolded like a case study in how outrage gets artificially inflated. What starts as a handful of people disliking something suddenly spirals into this massive wave of anger. And before you know it, the internet has collectively decided that something is the worst thing ever. But was that your real opinion, or was it shaped by the sheer volume of negativity? Something that I want you to understand is that by making this video, I'm not trying to justify any comments made by Ranveer Labadia or associated people on sGotLatent or defend their vulgarity. Rather, I'm trying to offer a different perspective on the controversy. Today, I want to break down exactly how that happens, from the neuroscience of negativity bias to the social psychology of groupthink, to how political entities allegedly exploit this system to control narratives. Your brain is fundamentally wired to pay more attention to negativity. This isn't some random glitch, it's evolution. Neuroscientific studies show that the amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, reacts much more intensely to negative stimuli than to positive ones. This is why bad news hits harder than good news, and why a single insult stays with you longer than 10 compliments. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. Our ancestors needed to remember dangerous situations more than pleasant ones, but in the digital age, this bias gets hijacked. When we scroll through a comment section filled with outrage, our amygdala treats it like a warning. This is bad, pay attention, feel something. So even if we originally felt neutral about something, our brain starts reprocessing that neutrality as negativity. This is why, after reading through enough negative comments, you will find yourself thinking, yeah, this is actually terrible, even if you didn't care 5 minutes ago. And here's where the science backs it up. A study published in Nature Communications in 2021 examined how online negativity spreads and found that negative opinions are amplified 4 times faster than neutral or positive ones. The researchers had participants evaluate a controversial topic, then expose them to comment sections that were artificially manipulated to be either highly negative or mixed. The result? Participants who were exposed to overwhelmingly negative comments drastically shifted their views to be more negative, even when the original topic was presented neutrally. Their own perceived autonomy of thought was an illusion. They believed that they had arrived at their opinions independently, but in reality, their emotional response had been shaped by social reinforcement loops. The scary part? Even after being told that the comments were manipulated, their negativity persisted. This means that once negativity is implanted, it's very hard to undo. This is where we talk about a phenomenon called pluralistic ignorance. The idea that people privately disagree with a dominant opinion but still go along with it because they believe everyone else accepts it. So even if you personally don't think sGotLatent was the worst thing ever, you see 500 comments saying it was, and suddenly you second guess yourself. Maybe you missed something. Maybe you're the weird one for not being outraged. So you either change your mind or, at the very least, act like you agree. And the more people do this, the more self-reinforcing the outrage becomes. What starts as a small pocket of genuine criticism snowballs into a perceived universal truth, even if the majority doesn't actually hold that belief. That's how groupthink wins, by making you think resistance is futile. Let's take a look at an example. Suppose you watch something online, like the sGotLatent episode, for example. Initially, you may find the episode funny after your first time of watching it. Then, in the middle, you hear something that is somewhat iffy in terms of being appropriate. You have mixed thoughts, but you don't start outright hating it, because it doesn't directly impact you or your life. Then you open the comment section of the video, and find people hating on that specific comment. Rather than having mixed opinions, your negative opinion towards it gets amplified. In reality, if you were truly thinking independently, you wouldn't probably be too bothered by the comments. But the fact that the negative aspect of your mixed opinion is confirmed by the comment section, aka confirmation bias, That is enough for your opinion to be molded in a different direction. And that, my viewers, is dangerous, because effectively, you're no longer an independent thinker. This is closely tied to the bandwagon effect, where people adopt beliefs just because they seem popular. Now, in politics and marketing, this effect is initially weaponized, but online, it happens almost automatically. Think about the way dislikes work. You might see a video with 1,000 dislikes and automatically assume it's bad, without even watching it critically. Your brain shortcuts the effort of thinking by outsourcing judgment to the crowd. And the more negativity you see, the less likely you are to question it. This is why mass dislike campaigns are so effective. It's also why creators or public figures can be fine one day and completely cancelled the next. The actual content of their work doesn't necessarily change. It's the perception that shifts because of how negativity spreads. Now, this brings us to something a little more deliberate. We've talked about organic negativity amplification, but what happens when it's engineered? There have been numerous allegations that political parties across the world have built IT cells within them that use thousands of coordinated accounts to flood comment sections with certain narratives, effectively steering public perception. The alleged tactic is simple. Identify a piece of content that contradicts or criticizes your agenda, deploy accounts to spam the comments with outrage and disapproval, let natural psychology take over. Real people start mimicking the outrage, thinking it's organic. The creator or message gets discredited, not through logic, but through sheer emotional manipulation. Whether or not you believe that this was done in the India's Got Latent controversy, the tactic itself is real and well documented in political warfare. Governments, corporations, and interest groups all leverage astroturfing, or fake grassroots movements, to make it seem like public opinion is unanimous, when in reality, it's just manufactured consensus. So what we're left with is this perfect storm. The brain's natural negativity bias, the snowball effect of social influence, the bandwagon effect making people stop questioning things, and potentially deliberate narrative control. What happens next? Groupthink. We lose nuance. Every issue gets reduced to a binary. Something is either the worst thing ever or completely innocent. There is no room for debate, no room for context. And the scariest part? People believe they're thinking critically, when really they're just absorbing whatever's been repeated the most. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. The more confident you are that your opinion is your own, the more you should stop and ask yourself, is it? So where do we go from here? We obviously can't change how the brain works, but we can change how we interact with information. First, be hyper-aware of how much comment sections shape your opinions. If you feel yourself getting more emotional about something the longer you read about it, that's not independent thought, that's conditioning. Second, be skeptical of the volume of negativity, not just the content. If a wave of outrage seems too unanimous, consider the possibility that it's been engineered. And lastly, be comfortable holding uncertain opinions. If something is controversial, that means there's complexity to it. Don't rush to pick a side just because the internet tells you to. Because the second you let the algorithm dictate your emotions, you're not thinking anymore. You're reacting. And there's a difference. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.